All right, this is the copyright disclaimer. Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, education, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. And this video is not for any monetary gain. It is explicitly for the reasons stipulated in the Copyright Act of 1976 under Section 107.
Lewis Allen was a World War II veteran, logger, and landowner in Liberty, Mississippi. He witnessed the moment Herbert Lee lost his life in 1961. At the coroner's hearing, Allen repeated the self-defense story, not because it was true, but because the courtroom was full with armed men, and he feared what would happen to his family. Later, Allen made a decision to tell the truth to federal investigators, and that choice came with a price. His business was boycotted, he was arrested on false charges, and the sheriff beat him so severely he suffered a broken jaw. Allen asked the federal government for protection, but none was given. On January 31st, 1964, the night before he planned to leave Mississippi for his safety, Lewis Allen lost his life outside his home in Liberty. Sheriff Daniel Jones, the main suspect, later told his widow, if Lewis had just shut his mouth, he wouldn't be laying there on the ground. No one was ever held responsible. Say his name, Lewis Allen.
On January 31, 1964, the night before he was set to move to Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Lewis Allen was ambushed outside his property in Liberty, Mississippi, and shot twice in the face with a shotgun. He died almost instantly. Mr. Allen was the victim of racially motivated violence in a system where he was offered no protection by the rule of law. Several years before, in September 1961, a local white state legislator named E.H. Hurst had shot and killed Herbert Lee in an Amite County, Mississippi, cotton gin in front of several eyewitnesses. Mr. Lee was a member of the Amite County, Mississippi, NAACP and worked with Bob Moses of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee on a voter registration drive. Mr. Allen witnessed the murder and was initially coerced into saying that Mr. Hurst killed Mr. Lee in self-defense. He later recanted and told the FBI that Mr. Hurst had shot Mr. Lee for registering black voters. Knowing the considerable risk of violence that came with speaking out against racial violence in Mississippi, Mr. Allen told federal authorities that he would need protection in order to cooperate in their investigation. The FBI refused to provide protection, and Mr. Allen did not testify against Mr. Hurst, but news still spread in the local community that Mr. Allen had spoken with federal investigators. Beginning in 1962, Mr. Allen was targeted for harassment and violence. Local white residents cut off business to his logging company. He was jailed on false charges. And on one occasion, Sheriff Daniel Jones broke Lewis Allen's jaw with a flashlight. The son of a high-ranking local Klansman, Sheriff Jones was also suspected to be a member of the Triple K. Lewis Allen filed complaints and testified before a federal grand jury regarding the abuse he suffered at the hands of Sheriff Jones, but his claims were dismissed. By 1964, Mr. Allen had resigned himself to leaving Mississippi for his own safety. After Mr. Allen was murdered, Sheriff Daniel Jones was the main suspect. Sheriff Jones later told Mr. Allen's widow, if Lewis had just shut his mouth, he wouldn't be laying there on the ground. No one was ever charged or convicted for the murder of Lewis Allen.
All right, Shalom. We are the Hebrew Israelites from the Indianapolis branch of the Great Millstone. We're here to give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Rakakash. Double honors to our apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well in teaching us this 100% truth. Salutations to them and our fellow Akim who labor in this truth week in and week out on the highways and byways. Also, salutations to the hopeful elect of the scattered 12 tribes of Israel, scattered to the four corners of the earth, that be like unto the speckled bird, also known as your Israelite foreigners, and your so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. To you, we say Shalom.
Shalom.
All right, we have yet another installment of our camp series called For Thy Violence Against Thy Brother Jacob. Today's article will be coming from EJI, which stands for Equality Justice Initiative. We'll put a link to this article in the description box of the video. Hey, just going to get right into it about this violence against Jacob. And let's go ahead with Obadiah 1 and 10.
This is Obadiah chapter 1 and verse 10. It says, "For thy violence against thy brother Jacob, shame shall cover thee, and thou shalt be cut off forever."
All right. And this is Obadiah writing. It's one chapter, 21 verses long, but it is talking about the total annihilation of Esau, Edom, for everything that they've done to us since he, said, he was going to slay Jacob, going all the way back to Genesis, chapter 27, verse 38 through 41. All right, up to this very day, his violence against us, and we're on our, I believe it's the 178th video, and 77. No, it is 77, I think. Yeah, 177 or 178. We'll get it right by the time we post it. But and we haven't even scratched the surface of all the stuff that he's done to both to the northern and southern kingdom of Israel, and it's continued to this day, as you can see, with the stuff that's going on in Minnesota. All right, we know for with certain, we're in a time of Jacob's trouble. All right, and you got to remember, Jacob's trouble, yes, is coming after us, but a lot of other people are going to be judged too, as we see in 1 Peter chapter 4, verses 17 and 18. They're going to catch, a lot of other nations going to catch hell too, so it's not just Jacob, all right, and then it goes on to say, the shame shall cover him, all right, Obadiah 1 and 10, and that shame is his past history. They cannot stop it, going all the way up to Amalek, and Amalek is real pissed right now, because they, the narrative is gone. Everybody sees them exactly for who they are, exactly for who they are. All right, go ahead and get that piece up.
Yeah, this is Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 16. It says, "Thou art filled with shameful glory. Drink thou also, and let thy foreskin be uncovered. The cup of the Lord, Yahweh Bashem Yahushua's right hand shall be turned unto thee, and shameful spewing shall be on thy glory." See, so we in that time where ultimately shameful spewing is when Esau, even so-called white man, in his glory. See, now the nations are seeing Esau, even so-called white man, for the devil that he truly is, and he no longer has respect in the planet Earth, man. Everybody is hip to all the atrocities and evil he's committed in the planet Earth, man. And everybody sees him as the wicked, man.
Yep.
All the things that he's done towards the Lord's chosen people. All right, all the wicked, vile, evil acts that he's committed against us, man. All right, that's all out for the world to see, man.
Yep.
There's constant videos, YouTube shorts and TikToks and things of that nature, going into things, history that's not really talked about in school, right? But ultimately, it is very prevalent to our history of things that have done it to us, man. So it's like the scripture say, Esau can't hide himself, man.
Nope.
It's ultimately the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahushua is revealing his devil. Right, as the book of Job says, the heaven shall reveal his iniquities. So with the Lord revealing your iniquities, right, through the internet, and ultimately through his men, his servants, the prophets, all right, there's no way for you to hide yourself, man.
Nope. Everybody's going to see it. And it goes on and says that he shall be cut off forever. All right, so, when that day of judgment hits, they're going to have, going to slavery twice as long and twice as hard as we were in slavery, but in righteousness, okay? And, it's not, this is the thing. It's going to be getting worse and worse to be an Edomite as we get closer to that day of judgment. Because they starting to see it, they starting to feel it. Their women are leaving them now, okay? The whole world is turning against them. You got infighting amongst them at the highest levels, So it's a bad thing to be an Edomite. And like I said, it's only going to get worse. Because you run that tab high, all right? And you got to pay for it. That's just the way it is. Colossians 3 and 25 says, he that doeth wrong must receive for the wrong which you have done. There's no respect of persons, okay? And that's coming, all right? So without further ado, anybody got anything else? We'll go ahead and get into the article. Like I said, it's posted on the screen here, and it's titled, "Lewis Allen ambushed and murdered for speaking out in Liberty, Mississippi." All right, and there's an embedded video there on YouTube. You go check that out on 60 Minutes. We won't play that for copyright reasons, okay? Okay, it starts out, it says, on January 31st, 1964, the night before he was set to move to Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Lewis Allen was ambushed outside his property in Liberty, Mississippi, and shot twice in the face with a shotgun. He died almost instantly. Mr. Allen was the victim of racially motivated violence in the system where he was offered no protection by the rule of law. And we know, this place is not our rest. Talking about America, they created this place for themselves.
Precept.
Go ahead.
This is Psalms 10 in verse 8. It says, "He sitteth in the lurking places of the villages. In the secret places doth he murder the innocent. His eyes are privily set against the poor." All right. Yeah. So Esau, this was during the time to where Esau could just openly, kill our people. Remove our people from, obtaining certain property, man. Certain positions and jobs, man. Because the stage has been set up for, for our people to be a prey here, man.
Yep.
To be hunted by the enemy, to be hunted by Esau, Edom, man.
What's that? Lamentations 2 and 15.
Yeah, more.
They hunt our steps.
I got one more.
Yeah.
It says he lieth in wait secretly as a lion in his den. He lieth in wait to catch the poor. He doth catch the poor when he draweth him into his net. Yep. And basically, this society was basically created, for our people to be a prey, man. And Esau being that lion, because he preys upon our people, man.
Yep.
To what? To shed the blood of the nation of Israel, man. All right, because he still has that perpetual hatred, man. All right, he's been rejected of Yahweh Shem Shai. Right, which is why he feels that he can just treat Jake however he pleases, man. But he's gonna have to answer for all of that, man, for all of that wickedness that he's been doing, that and that he still does, even up until this day.
If I may real quick, one thing that stuck out to me in this article in particular was how it wasn't really that long ago. All right, it happened in 1964, so a little over 60 years ago. So hey man, best believe it's probably still some people that were alive during that time that are still here, man.
Yeah.
All right. It wasn't even that long ago, man. It was pretty. Some of these stories that we read, they be early 1900s and things like that. But some of these things that we read also are recent in history, man. All right. That's just, like I said, one thing that stuck out to me, man. It wasn't even that long ago that some of this stuff was going on, man.
Yeah, that was just 3 years before I was born. So.
And to your point, we'll get into it, but the sheriff, who actually said it was the main push culprit of getting him, who actually unalived him, allegedly, is still alive.
Yeah.
And so they went back those many years. What they said it was like 60. Was about 60 years now.
64.
Yeah.
Yes.
So they went back so many years, to reinvestigate it, and they found that not only him, but some people that, the circle of certain folks are still alive, and they're trying to see if they could actually, arrest him.
Yeah.
See if they could get enough evidence to arrest him, and who was leading this the so-called white woman.
Yeah.
Actually, as the lead detective
Man.
on trying to get this.
The one against the man.
They even went to his house and talked to him and everything. So, the Lord is, like I said, that would have been swept under the rug, but we're at the time where Esau's making them bear.
Yep.
I just wanted to bring out something real quick. This Isaiah chapter 59, verse 15. It says, "Yea, truth faileth, and he that departeth from evil maketh himself a prey. And the Lord saw it, and it displeased him that there was no judgment." Like, when you go into the article and the video, on there, you see that he was told to lie.
Yep.
him and a few other people that witnessed it. This was a time that that so-called black man, black woman wasn't able to vote. So they were pushing the voter, going out to get our people, to go out and vote. And that's a whole other topic as far as voting. But that was the push. And the person that was on the live that he witnessed was actually one of the voter registration guys that was with him. So they had him live, but then it was bearing on his conscience. And that's another thing with Jake. We have a conscience.
Yep.
The Lord deals with us. And it was eating at him, and he then went and said, no, I'm going to have to go tell the truth. When you couldn't even actually, at that time, you weren't even allowed to even testify or be a witness to any white man, okay? Let alone, arrest or aid in arresting. So again, truth faileth, and he that departed from evil making himself a prey. You're going to find he then decided to tell the truth in the other matter, and then they preyed upon him. Okay, so this is the scripture that how about Shimei Shai living right before our eyes.
Precept.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yep, this is Habakkuk chapter 1, verse 4. It says, therefore the law is slack, and judgment doth never go forth. For the wicked doth compass about the righteous, therefore wrong judgment proceed.
Yep, so that was one of the other scriptures. So, go ahead.
When you deal with that word encircle or encompass, it means to encircle or surround. So he's always, looking for ways to pretty much, box in Jake. And when you read these stories, right? Because like the beginning of this verse said, therefore the law is slack. Hey, the law of the scripture says what? That thou shalt not raise a false report. A lot of these stories that we're going into are false reports initiated by who? The so-called white woman. And they know it's a false report. Even their men know it's a false report. But it's due to that perpetual hatred that they have for the nation of Israel that they just go ahead and slay Jake anyway. So, and then you see a lot of times, like, when it comes to these false reports being raised and these false accusations, right? Esau doesn't even do a full investigation. They find loopholes to, really justify, right, them killing Jake, man. See, so like I said, therefore the wrong judgment proceeded. We got a wicked judge who's currently sitting on the throne. Esau, even so-called white man.
Precept.
Right? So with the wicked on the throne, all right, true judgment is never going to go forth. That's where Yahweh Shai comes in, man. Yahweh Shai, he's going to take this devil off the throne. Isaiah 47, right, verses 1 through 3. Come sit in the dust, O virgin daughter of Babylon, there is no throne. Yahweh Shai is getting ready to take you off the throne, my dude. And he's about to show you how a true judge rules, man.
Yeah, real quick. And then I'll get it to you. This is the book of Psalms, chapter 12, verse 8. It says, the wicked walk on every side when the vilest men are exalted. So when you find that, of course, though he went to the police, FBI did investigation. Of course, they brought it back down to local, but the guy was a politician. He was a local politician. And, of course, the police, he pretty much was governing in the town. So, you're now going amongst those who actually, have the power to cover it up, because the power is in their hand,
No, can you read that again? That exact.
Psalms 12 and verse 8, it says, the wicked walk on every side when the vilest men are exalted.
God, let's see, like you just quoted, Job 9:24. There's nowhere around that. It's going to always be wicked as long as the wicked is in rulership. So, nowhere around it.
Yeah. You get your preset?
Yeah.
And then I guess I will get back to this article.
Yeah. I get this precept. You was talking about that word encompass, which just brought me back to what Jerome was saying about his eyes are crippled and set against the poor in Psalms 10. And a way of seeing that, there's a lot of videos that go around where you have Jake minding their own business. And it's a common thing where it says, when you're black, you're never lonely. There's somebody always in your business. And they catch this Edomite in the background, just staring at him. Won't leave him alone. And that's what they do. They always watching. Can't stand for us to be at peace with ourselves. All right. The precept, going back to what you're saying, going back to those women. This is the white woman, so-called white woman. This is Psalm 109, beginning in verse 13. It says, "Let his posterity be cut off, and in the generation following, let their name be blotted out." because that's ultimately going back to Obadiah 1 and 10. You know, they're going to be done away with. But it breaks it down even further. It says, let the iniquity of his fathers be remembered with the Lord, Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, and let not the sin of his mother be blotted out. So they're going to get it too. You know, they had a huge hand in Jake's demise. And it wasn't just Jake's demise. That accusation not only led to the demise of that Jake, but it destroyed whole communities that were thriving. Okay? Some burned down, some turned into lakes, man-made lakes, all because of a lie that she told. You know, in most recent years, you had Carolyn Bryant, who had Emmett Till off. You know, the Department of Justice said they went down there and couldn't find any evidence, and then later on, oh, we found a warrant. You saw that warrant the first time. In the same place you went and searched. All right? But she's, you know, she gonna pay for that. All right, back to the article. It says, several years before, in September of 1961, a local white state legislator named E.H. Hearst had shot and killed Herbert Lee in an Amite County, Mississippi, cotton gin in front of several eyewitnesses. Mr. Lee was a member of the Amite County, Mississippi NAACP and worked with the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, also known as the SNCC, on a voter registration drive. Mr. Allen witnessed the murder and was initially coerced into saying that Mr. Hearst killed Mr. Lee in self-defense. He later recanted and told the FBI that Mr. Hearst had shot Mr. Lee for registering black voters. All right. It says, knowing the considerable risk of violence that came with speaking out against racial violence in Mississippi, Mr. Allen told federal authorities that he would need protection in order to cooperate in the investigation. The FBI refused to provide protection, and Mr. Allen did not testify against Mr. Hearst. But news still spread in the local community that Mr. Allen had spoken with federal investigators.
That's why the scriptures say, never trust thine enemy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this devil, man, he's not for you, Jakes. You know, of course, when this man, he went to seek protection from the authorities, but man, we know how these authorities get down, especially back then.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and we know that the government was involved in a lot of these incidents. You know, you read, you watch movie Birth of the Nation with Nat Turner. You know, the government was involved in pretty much destroying or thwarting, I'll say for lack of better terms, the rebellion of Jake. You know, so when the authorities and the government was involved, man, you know, it was all, you know, in the best interest. You know, the judgment that they cast was in the best interest of their people.
Mm-hmm.
If their people desired to see the Jake man dead, the Jake man, you know, hanging from his neck, then that's what it was going to be. You know?
It's Lamentations chapter 4, verse 17. It says, as for us, our eyes as yet failed for our vain help. In our watching, we have watched for a nation that could not save us.
Mm-hmm.
So it was, again, he actually made took the risk, to step out and go and go against, the powers, and as a result, he actually was. They did not only did they help him, but then he was. You'll see that he was. It led to his demise, which further, pushed the terror and the cause with people in the land, in the neighborhood, surrounding cities that would hear this. But no, it was like, that if you go tell, they'll unalive you. So it was made known, and that was more terror. But in the end, we're at a place now, the Lord is changing those things. It's like as soon as they, they put their eye on, the apple of his eye, they put their hands on the elect, things will happen. And of course, they're being even that much more exposed because we actually see what's going on in today's time, as far as the Epstein, what they're doing, like who's been funded, the leader, the Amalekite, been the ones who pushed all these things. All this stuff is coming out, but at the same time, you also have the men of the Lord, who started when I had apostles and elders of Great Millstone, who have stood up and spoke with great boldness before the face of such that has afflicted us. And now we're walking in that same stead. And that's why we know through the Spirit of Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai that, that this is the true walk, because he was actually pushing voter, to vote, and that wasn't the thing of the Lord, as well.
Yeah.
And of course, his judgment is, what we're speaking on to this day.
Yeah, I was going to say, because when you go into the etymology of that word vote, it means a vow to a god.
Yeah.
All right, and no matter which one it is, that's the first commandment. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Because he's a jealous God. So that's what you're choosing. A God when you actually want to vote. All right. And then you said that we look to a nation that cannot save us. Well, the reason is, if you go to verse 15, they're the ones that's hunting us. Lamentations 4 and 15.
18.
18.
Yeah, because I skipped. I decided not to. It says verse 18. They hunt our steps, that we cannot go in our streets. Our end is near, and their days are fulfilled, and our days are fulfilled, for our end is come. You was gonna say something?
I'm saying that goes back to the Psalms 10 that your Roman brought up earlier. Where it talks about their eyes are perfectly set against the poor. Right, they sit in lurking places in the villages, or in the poor. The prayer record paraphrase. See, so like we was going to earlier, Esau, when it comes to these false reports and false accusations being raised, right? Esau creating all these various different loopholes, because ultimately, like you quoted earlier, it goes all the way back to Genesis 27, right? Esau said, "What, the days of mourning from my father are at hand? Then will I slay my brother Jacob?" These Edomites are still thinking about slaying you so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, man. Our Psalms 83. That the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. Right, these devils want to completely wipe you out the face of the planet Earth, man. Yeah. See, and you got Jake that still want to go to Egypt for help, and that's why this dude ended up dying, because he went to Egypt for help.
Real quick, verse 19. Our persecutors are swifter than the eagles of the heaven. It says they pursued us upon the mountains. They lay wait for us in the wilderness. So just going back to what he was saying, they eyes are set privily, against us, and so of course, that which is then is now, we're in the wilderness as we speak here in the Americas, where they again set traps and snares, which was also brought up, unrighteous decrees, different legislations that they're putting out there, like for example, this new thing that's going out, or with Don Lemon and the freedom of speech. This is a thing that could be a potential play, but the scriptures said that we're going to come to a time where there's going to be a famine of the word. Not of bread only, but of the hearing of the word of the Heavenly Father. So to the elect who hear that and see this is a good thing, because again, that's one step closer to the Lord returning, and another step closer to seeing his prophecy his word being true, and every man a liar.
What they got him on was literally called the KKK Act. How's Don Lemon part of the KKK? But that just shows what they do. They reverse a law that was meant for them on him. And all so-called I forget what type of journalists they're called when they don't work for the media.
It'll come.
Yeah, I forget what type they're called, but he's like a freelance journalist. Yeah, he's on his own, and they turned it on him. And another lady, I saw another lady, a Jake woman. Yeah, that was arrested. Yep. So, yeah, interesting. All right, back to the article. It says, beginning in 1962, Mr. Allen was targeted for harassment and violence. Local white residents cut off his business to his logging company. He was jailed on false charges, and on one occasion, Sheriff Daniel Jones broke his jaw with a flashlight. The son of a high-ranking local Klansman, Sheriff Jones was also suspected to be a member of the Klan. He was. Lewis Allen filed complaints and testified before a federal grand jury regarding the abuse he suffered at the hand of Sheriff Jones, but his claims were dismissed. It says by 1964, Mr. Allen had resigned himself to leaving Mississippi for his own safety. After Mr. Allen was...
real quick, and this is like an example of that we see in like in the news and like in the media, where let's just use first name come to mind, Kanye West.
Yeah.
You know, when he or any of these athletes, another person come to mind, Nick Cannon, you know, who was very notable in speaking up about something, and then as soon as it happened, you know, they started losing endorsements. They started, you know, so as soon as he spoke up, he owned his own land.
Yep.
He owned his own company. People, they were coming to buy from him, but because he spoke up and it was true, you know, they then started to like they said, CNN. I think it was CNN, but it was 60 Minutes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they said they started to blackball him.
Yep.
So they stopped buying his materials. They started, like, when he would go to get gas places, they wouldn't allow him to buy gas at these different places. So they crippled them economically. And then eventually it got to the point we say, okay, I'm gonna get up out of here.
Yeah.
But another thought that come to mind as far as the scripture, we'll let you read that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It says, last paragraph, it says, by 1964, Mr. Allen had resigned himself to leaving Mississippi for his own safety. After Mr. Allen was murdered, Sheriff Jones was the main suspect. Sheriff Jones later told Mr. Allen's widow if Lewis had just shut his mouth, he wouldn't be laying there on the ground. No one was ever charged or convicted for the murder of Lewis Allen. That concludes the article.
Anybody got anything?
Yeah,
Makes you like
Psalm 73.
Amos 1 and 11, where it speaks about how they did cast off all pity, man. All right, they murdered this dude in cold blood and said he should have just kept his mouth shut, or what happened to him, man. All right, that's going into them not having pity, man. All right, that's why that scripture mentions that the Lord is not going to turn away the punishment thereof, man. All right. Hey, Esau's, in due time, they're going to get what they're owed, man, which is destruction, man. All right.
Zechariah 11 and 5, they hold themselves not guilty.
This is Joel chapter 3 verse 19. It says, Egypt shall be a desolation, and Edom shall be a desolate wilderness. You know, which also we know that this speaks to modern day America. Right, spiritual Egypt being America. Right, Edom also being Edom's dwelling place being Babylon the Great, aka America today. Right, which is why Isaiah 63 says, well, who is this that cometh from Edom would die garments from Babylon? You know, meaning Yahweh Shai, he's coming back to a war by Edom and getting ready to lay his kingdom to the foundation. You see, destroy his kingdom to the foundation. It says, for the violence against the children of Judah, because they have shed innocent blood in their land. And we know what the law says, right? That the land cannot be cleansed therein, but by the blood of him that shed it. You know? So in order for this land to be cleansed, alright, Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, his blood has got to be shed. But it's furthermore why it says what? In Habakkuk the 2nd chapter, woe to him that buildeth a city by iniquity and establisheth the town by blood, roughly paraphrasing. You know? And when you look at history, when you look at America's history, has not Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, built up this place by wickedness and through the blood of the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans? Alright? So the scripture says, woe to you, man.
Yep.
Meaning what? Death and destruction. See, and your judgment is written all throughout the scriptures, man. It ain't no getting out the hands of Yahweh by Shemiah Shai. Especially after you touch the apple of his eye. You know?
We'll end with this here. This is the book of Ecclesiastes, or Ecclesiastes chapter 8, verse 11. It says, because sentence against an evil work is not executed speedily, therefore the hearts of the sons of men is fully set in them to do evil. And of course, this is what we've seen, a perpetual hatred. They've done this, they've been able to hide it, cover it up, and continue on living their life. This man that they've, that's still alive, they've confronted him, and, now Allen, his son, has been speaking up. So of course it talks about a man that will raise up his son, grieve the enemy. We know in truth what that represents, but that's just a thought that came to mind, that he has a son that's left behind that's now like screaming and speaking of, you know, the cause of what happened to his father. And now they're, you know, kicking up dust and that they would try to hide, you know, and now he's being tormented by that because now they're coming. The FBI just came to his house to speak to him about these things, and then went and spoke to some other people. So that has to not feel good, but you know, that's what, you know, this is what should come to him, you know. So what'd you say? You always bring it out. He that doeth wrong, you know?
Colossians 3:20.
Yep. So receive of the wrong that he's done, right? Yep. Roughly paraphrasing. He says, though a sinner do evil 100 times, and his days are prolonged, yet surely I know that it shall be well with them that fear the Most High, which fear before him. Of course, the elect, you know, will be protected, and it will go well with them. He says, but it shall not be well with the wicked, and anyone that cleaves on to them. It says, neither shall he prolong his days, which are as a shadow, because he feared not before the Most High. And he had no fear when he put his hands on anyone, let alone knowing these are the children of the Most High, and you've put your hands on them repeatedly without fear. So we hope that this lesson is edifying, uplifting, exalting of some sort to like body of true believers. Before we end, we'd like to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Peace and salutations to the hopeful elect scattered throughout the four corners of the globe. Until next time, all those listening and learning to you, we say Shalom.
Shalom.